And right then, as a 13, 14-year-old, I was like, man, that's where I want to go to school. Sight unseen. I didn't know a lot about Howard at the time. And that's how I ended up going to the Mecca. It's the only school I applied to. I didn't apply to the University of South Carolina. I didn't apply to Duke or North Carolina. I was going to go to Howard, or I was going to go nowhere. And fortunate enough, I was able to get into Howard, and it changed my life in a lot of ways. Welcome to another episode of I Take Your Point podcast. I'm John Dunson, joined by my lovely co-host, Lynn. Last name is still not relevant. I am mesmerized by this outfit that you have on today. It's like greenish. And
sorry, it's like what?
Greenish, I think.
This is all black. Please, sir, check your eyes.
No, it looks pretty green. Why are you wearing all black?
Envy that's in your eyes. I don't know. I can't help you with that.
Why are you wearing all black? You in mourning?
No, I'm not in mourning. I'm in the complete opposite of mourning.
So why are you wearing all black? I mean, I'm wearing all black because I'm fashionable, you know.
Can we pause for just a moment? Because I think that deserves a good, hearty laugh.
Fakeness. So I'm literally mesmerized by the hat and what looks like some type of medallion that's hanging around your neck. Is that some like magic potion or something?
Literally every week cannot deal with your idea of fashion just because I don't think pastel Under Armour and a baseball cap is high fashion. I'm sorry.
Look, I like to keep things very minimalist forward with respect to my fashion. It keeps...
And your thinking, and let's just keep going. Comma.
How was your week?
It was good.
Yeah, what was good about it?
It was busy. My boys were home and just lots of activities. It's always interesting when they're home. And so it was good. We were doing fine with all of the flooding that was here. Unfortunately, everybody didn't feel that way, but we were okay in Central Texas.
Okay, but you're in Austin, so there was no flooding in Austin. Oh.
So I literally just said that in Central Texas, in this area, we were doing fine. So again, please put your ears on and listen up. We are fine. Other people were not as fine as we were here in Austin. Why is this hard for you, sir? Sir, why is this hard for you?
So I'm just saying, it just sounds like to me that you're just trying to play the sympathy card for people to think that you're in the middle of a flood.
I just said I was fine. There's no sympathy here. Sir, we get on with this conversation because I'm boring.
I'm saying with all the hate and animosity that comes your way, I just see it as a desperate attempt for you to try to get some favor with the folks who don't like you. So you figured you'd tell them that you're in the middle of a flood.
Maybe, John.
Yeah, if that was your intent, and I get it. It failed. Big fail. That said, I'm glad that the individuals who were in harm's way of the floods were able to, or will be able to, hopefully put pieces of their life back together. When we think about the flood and we think about FEMA and we think about all the things that the United States has done to move forward with respect to climate change, it is not lost on me that you have this administration who, as a part of their massive cuts with DOGE, one of the things that they did cut was FEMA, and disaster relief, and Texas was at the forefront of that. I read someplace that one of the counties that was hardest hit, when Obama offered them funds back in 2008 or 2010, they declined to take the funds to fix their infrastructure. Biden offered them funds a few years ago. They took the funds, but did not use the funds to fix their infrastructure. And so now they're sort of playing, woe is me. You guys are not paying us any attention, and you left us here to fend for ourselves. And that's where I have a problem with politicians who use their political beliefs, end up harming the individuals who may or may not have known, obviously, what it is that those politicians did or decided to do. And this is where I would hope that individuals put their constituents before themselves when making these decisions. But we're seeing time and time again that does not happen. So I say all that to say, again, my thoughts and prayers are with the families that lost loved ones, and hopefully Texas will be able to rebound.
Thank you.
Yes, and even though you're not in the floodplain area of Texas, I do know that you guys have been dealing with some heat.
Yes, that actually impacted my hair, so there's that.
Yeah, I don't know if the heat impacts your...
It's the humidity. It's horrible. So, I mean, can I have some sympathy for that?
Yeah, but your hair is always horrible, so...
What?
Hey, I mean, you know what? I take that back. It's not always horrible because sometimes you do make an effort to comb it, but you don't. How do you equate the heat in Texas to you deciding that you're not going to comb your hair? Make it make sense to me.
I will. And so it's so humid here, and I spend a lot of time exercising. So it's counterproductive. You're just sweating and then washing. And then what is the purpose of combing it? Like, that's just a lot of work. And I would rather divert those efforts to other things like eating a Pop Tart.
That's just nasty.
Strong.
This is nasty.
That's a blueberry Pop Tart on China. Oh my God. It's amazing.
Anyway, as we think about the things that happened this week, and there are a couple of stories that caught my attention. The first of which was, speaking of culture and speaking of nastiness, one of the things that stood out was you had the president of Liberia who visited the POTUS. And as the president of Liberia was speaking, the shit show and his eloquence decided to say, okay, you speak so well, you speak English well. Mm-hmm. And I think me and a lot of other folk were taken aback by the fact that, it was embarrassing for this individual who is the leader of this particular nation not to know that Liberia is an English-speaking nation. But it sort of fits who he is with respect to his ignorance. And so I'm always, and I say all that to say, I'm always fascinated by things that some white folk may do and say that, in this particular case, speaking so well. And that happened with even Biden, with how it originally said something to Obama about him being so eloquent and so well spoken. Have you ever been told that you speak so well? Because you do speak well.
Thank you. That is so kind of you. No, I've never heard this before. Just kidding. Of course I have. And it can be a slight. One of the things that I find interesting with that question and then with the question with the POTUS and what happened is that we have this expectation for people that are in marginalized groups or that have been disrespected to always respond with grace. And if you're insulted, you're supposed to remain calm. You need to make sure that your pain doesn't disrupt the livelihood and the feelings of the one that oppressed or insulted you. And at some particular point, I say, Grandpa, you're just not invited to dinner. Just go put your teeth in and go to McDonald's because you're not here anymore. We just have to get to this point where when we're angry and we speak up, that we're not defined as aggressive, that we're not as difficult, and that we don't have to smile and walk through it.
So how do you respond if someone says to you, Lynn, you're just so articulate, like they're surprised that you would be an articulate person or like they're surprised that you speak well? Have you seen that your response has changed over the course of your life? Because mine has. When someone has said to me something like that, and I'm like, well, how do you expect me to speak? I mean, I'm a graduate of the greatest university that God created. To Howard University. And so with respect to that, I get that sometimes we'll have some individuals who did not mean offense when they say it. But there are others that it is coded, it is charged, it is said in a manner that I'm shocked. How have you responded to that in that moment when it's happened to you?
So you asked me if things have changed. Yes, things have changed. In my younger days, it would have probably been an Angela Davis response, and I'm up in arms and got my black bands on, and that's it. We're going down. Now I do approach things with a little bit more grace, and I'll probably use humor to deflect and try to better understand their intention behind it, and then do a gentle correction. And this is how I received this. I received this as something that is surprising to you, that a person like myself would be able to be articulate. And, I also have running water and I have access to a car. Can you believe it? So I will try and understand a little bit more. And if the person is someone that is important to me or that I want to be important to me, I will take the time, even though I don't want to educate them. Because I do believe as an adult, the onus is on yourself to educate yourself, and I don't need to do that. But if they're important to me, I will let them know how it was received and suggest other ways to express a compliment. Younger days, yes, we were up in arms. I was getting ready to start the new Black Panthers. Now, I'm just so calm now. I'm just a calm, gentle person. You mentioned this crystal around my neck. It just brings me calmness. Can you feel the calmness?
No, I don't think of calm when I think of you. That crystal must be defective because there's no aspect of it that is working in with you. You sure that you don't have one that's like the anti-calm version of the crystal?
Johnny, stop.
You have like you have crystal. What is fake crystal? Is there a version of fake crystal?
No, John, I don't deal in fakeness.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So your hair. So no, I'm not saying your hair is fake.
If I did, I really made poor decisions. You bought that?
So I'm always fascinated when you have people that will say that individuals want to touch their hair. Has that ever happened to you where an individual has wanted to, are you a toucher? You like individuals? I mean, if individuals, there are people, some people that are touchers, that they get close to you and they have to have their hands on you, have to touch you when they're speaking to you. Does that bother you? You strike me as a toucher.
Okay, so I grew up in 99.9% white environments. And so, oh my God.
I could not have known that with the
We're going to go ahead and table that because we're going to circle back around to that in your idea of what Blackness means. Because I'm going to tell you about Blackness. At any rate, I grew up in primarily Black neighborhoods and environments. And so, growing up, sometimes my sister and I were the only Black kids in the school, and not just our classes, but the entire school. So there was this curiosity where people wanted to touch my hair, or if my mom had put braids in, oh, let me touch your hair. Again, Angela Davis, it didn't work out well for anybody because I'm not afraid for the fisticuffs. And it's just like, I think if I ever have to go to the pokey, the first person I'm going to do is punch somebody in the face so that they know to back up. So I don't particularly care. You can't touch my face. You can't touch my skin. You can't touch my hair. I mean, even my kids, they know not to touch my hair or my face with your oily little skin. Don't do that. Now, if someone makes a comment about my hair, I will take that under consideration. If it's someone, again, I'm so sorry, ladies that are my friends. If it's someone that's not Black and they make a comment about my hair, I immediately go to the bathroom to comb it because it must look really bad if you make a comment about it. I think what they're saying is it looks different. Not that it looks good, but that, again, it's that language that has been commonly used. And I don't think that people take the time to understand how it's received, right? So if I started touching someone else's hair, they would be offended. And I kind of want to do that. Just go up to someone, oh my God, your hair is so silky. Oh my God, can I touch it? Just rub my face all in it. Would you like that? No, you would not. So don't do it to me. I'm not your object. I'm not your doll. You can't just touch me when you feel like it.
Yeah, I think that the larger conversation with what happened with the shit show in Liberia is about understanding, white folks specifically, understanding Black culture and understanding, as you said, there's no one way to be Black. There are ways that you can obviously represent yourself in the culture, and individuals may give you the side eye, especially
you.
Well, with you having very limited knowledge of certain things, yes, I will give you a side eye, for instance.
You can give me whatever you want to. It doesn't matter because, again, there's no one way to be Black. Blackness is beautiful and it comes in all shades, all forms. You coming from the great college of the cult, you should know that.
First of all,
the cult teach you.
Again, it's called Howard University or Mecca if you have problems. So I'm always fascinated by individuals like you who grew up in predominantly white environments and what that experience was like day in and day out, because it did shape and has shaped a lot of the decisions that individuals make. And it does shape a lot of how it is that an individual may be perceived or perceive certain things in the culture. What is the biggest thing that you wish you would have had more exposure to? What are some of those things?
I always give you a hard time about Howard University.
Let's call it Mecca.
Whatever. It's only because I do admire that experience, right? So being around people that you don't have to apologize that much for being who you are. And there are some things that growing up in all white environments that were a little problematic because there was a lot of educating my peers, right? And so sometimes you just want to be a kid and I don't want to be a teacher. In terms of what I think I was missing, I would have liked to have explored more of the Black culture, not just in the summers when I went to Oklahoma with my mom and dad's family, but more about the history. accomplishments, the things that Black people have contributed to this world. So a lot of that was self-educated on my part, but I would have loved to have had other people that I could have explored those conversations with. I mean, it probably would have led to me starting the new Black Panthers, but who knows? Maybe there was a reason why that didn't happen.
I think everyone knows that I attended the great university that is Howard University. My decision to attend the Mecca was based on a movie. And I think I've shared this with you. I was at that time, I think in the 8th grade, maybe 9th grade. A soldier's play and a soldier story came out, and it had Denzel Washington as a young actor. It also had one of my favorite actors, Howard E. Rollins, rest his soul. And he was this chocolate guy that just commanded a presence on the screen. And I remember the scene where he stepped off the bus and he had on his military garment and he had these Ray-Ban sunglasses and he had his, had his hat on, and Robert Townsend, who was also in the movie, was picking him up as he was getting off the bus station. This is set in the 1940s or 50s, I believe. And Robert Townsend his character had never seen someone comport themselves that way. And he asked him, a couple questions, and he said, he graduated from Howard University. And right then, as a 13, 14-year-old, I was like, okay, that's where I want to go to school. Sight unseen. I didn't know a lot about Howard at the time. And that's how I ended up going to the Mecca. It's the only school I applied to. I didn't apply to the University of South Carolina. I didn't apply to Duke or North Carolina. I was going to go to Howard, or I was going to go nowhere. And fortunate enough, I was able to get into Howard, and it changed my life in a lot of ways, because a lot of my lifelong friends are from Howard. And one of the things that the Mecca does extremely well is it celebrates the culture. You think about the lineage of the individuals who have graduated and matriculated through that school. Howard's imprint is universal. Our receipts are universal. Our receipts are unmatched. I always say that Harvard is white Howard's. And so when you think about
Harvard?
Harvard University is the white Howard University. When you think about how it is that the culture exists, and the one thing that Howard did show me was there was so many different variations of what it is that Black folks across the diaspora were doing. We are meeting with doctors, lawyers, engineers, individuals who are head of states, individuals who are running multi-large organizations. You're exposed to that in so many ways at Howard University, and all of it's like a melting pot of gumbo. And you're meeting with individuals from every state within the United States, people from Iowa, from California, from Texas, from South Carolina, and obviously people from the Midwest. And all of you are together, and you're learning about differences, and you're learning about different things, and it caused you to take a look at how it is that certain images of Black folk is represented on not only small screen but big screen. And I remember having this one conversation in one of my classes, and it was about the Jeffersons versus Good Times, and thinking about those two sitcoms and how it is that those sitcoms back in the late 70s, early 70s were beaming out images of the Black family. And for Jeffersons, it was you're moving on up to this deluxe apartment in the sky, and George was a business owner and he had a lot of success. But when you looked around his house, to be fair, he was dealing with racism and dealing with interracial marriage and all those things. So he was dealing with it in his own way. But when you looked around his house, there was no culture. There's very little culture with respect to the arts, with respect to Black achievement. Good Times, they were in the projects in Chicago. JJ was an artist. And one of the things that I did during COVID was I went back and looked at Good Times. And the themes of those shows, and this is the mid-70s, the themes of those shows are themes that we're still dealing with today. And it was so forward thinking in terms of how it is that they were dealing with some of the concepts, whether it was gentrification, whether it was housing, whether it was family and the family dynamic with respect to James being the head of the household, and how it is that every time it looked as if they were able to sort of see a light at the end of the tunnel, there was always something that happened that stopped that. And there were a couple of years later where a conversation was happening with the late, great John Amos. And one of the reasons he ended up leaving the sitcom was because of they were making JJ the star of the show and the buffoonery that came with him as opposed to it being a little bit more progressive with where it is that James may want it to go. What shows did you watch growing up? Green Acres?
Or the biggest hater in my life. I watched Good Times. I mean, I was a tiny
You?
little baby. I was so little, like I barely understood. I'm a baby. I did watch Good Times, but I will tell you that that was the part that bothered me. Is any time they were getting ready to move to a different level, something happened. JJ, whatever his name is, when they're in the wedding, like, dude, keep your big feet out of the way.
Who's the husband? Is it Kenny, Kevin, Kelvin?
Remember, yeah, I have to look that up. But yeah, it was always something that happened, and you never saw that next stage. And as Black people, we know obviously that there's a next stage. And so when I talk about, being able to be in environments where I had more exposure, you just saw the images were on TV. So the Jeffersons, watched that, watched Good Times. But, I also watched Little House on the Prairie. I loved Little House on the Prairie. I loved Different Strokes. I loved those Thursday night TV. We watched a lot of nature channels. We did not watch Gunsmoke. We watched a lot of nature channels, a lot of Disney. Our household was very family oriented. So Saturdays and Sundays were spent watching.
Hee-haw?
We didn't watch any hee-haw.
Watched Hee-haw? I'm sorry.
Literally the worst. No, we didn't watch that, but we did watch Thursday night TV, and we watched things like that growing up.
Hazard on Thursday was Dukes of
We did
Hazzard
watch the Dukes of Hazzards. Yes, we did.
with the huge Confederate flag on the car, but you're not.
That's the interesting thing, because those things were not, those are things that I didn't pick up on until later in life. And I was like, ooh, these shows are problematic, right? Even when you look at, I can't think of the name of it right now, but Sanford and Son. And then there was a spinoff on that. And I remember going back and looking at that, and Grady, how he was just like, women can't drive, women or whatever. And I was like, this would never get greenlit today. Like it was, I think the 70s and 80s, the media just needs to be canceled. Like the entire 2 decades, just bye, get out of here. They were problematic.
So, little data point here: Whitman Mayo, who was the character Grady, is a member of, or was a member, rest his soul, of the greatest fraternity that God created, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated.
This must end.
I'm just saying that we're everywhere. Keith was the name of Thelma's husband.
You're right. Yes, poor dumb Keith. Yes.
So the interesting thing about that, and all of it ties together. So when I got to Howard and I saw the art that was depicted in Good Times that was sold on Howard's campus, and that was some of the art that I ended up buying, because the artists depicted, even and Black folk have always been able to do this, even in our darkest pain, even when things are not going as we would want, we still find joy. And so when you have the creative outlets of the artist to be able to create something that will allow individuals to see, okay, even when things aren't going our way, we can make lemonade. And that's been the soul and the spirit of Black folk throughout our time on this earth. And at least it's been my experience. And a part of that was sort of debated, or has been debated this week, with respect to what we saw transpire with the Essence Festival, where you had, well, first of all, have you ever been to that? Did you ever go to the Essence Festival? You don't strike me as someone who would be Essence Festival.
John, please stay on task. Like, it is so boring when you go off on some tangent about my experiences. Focus.
So no, you've never been to the Essence Festival.
Again.
Why am I not shocked? So the Essence Festival, I remember the first time that I attended Essence Fest. It was probably 2000. Experience it at that time was such an experience, because you had the best of the best in terms of Black entertainment and Black culture, and it was geared toward Black women and Black businesses. And remember, a couple weeks ago, I said that Tavis Smiley had this event that he was hosting that invited individuals like Kamala Harris and Reverend Sharpton and a young Jamal Harrison Bryant. All of them were a part of that event. Tom Joyner was a huge sponsor in terms of sponsoring some of the cultural events that were going on during that time. So the way that the Essence Fest was laid out, it was, you had culture during the day and you had entertainment at night. And you had individuals who were the named musicians on the quote unquote main stage. Those would be the ones that were playing at the Mercedes-Benz Arena or stadium that was there. But for individuals who weren't able to fill a stadium and were better at providing more intimate settings or intimate concerts, they had lounges. And so you could go in and you could see an artist like maybe not an Erykah Badu, but an artist like a Bilal, or some of the independent artists with our guest a couple weeks ago. Those would be the lounges that those artists would play in. It would seat, a couple hundred people, maybe a couple thousand people, and you have a more jazz type feel with respect to those performances. And then obviously Katrina happened, and that sort of upended Essence with respect to how certain things were done. And then it over the last decade or so is changed. And where Essence used to be, where individuals would carve out that week of July 4th to at least go down to New Orleans and spend with some girlfriends and do whatever. I think the movie Girls Trip was sort of based on, or at least a portion of that, them going Essence Fest. And so the thing that stood out to me was what changed with respect to that event, where we saw this year a lot of individuals opt not to go. A lot of individuals who did go have terrible experience, or have a terrible experience, or a bad experience, I should say. The acts who were performing, running hours behind schedule, the things that used to be free were now, there was a charge for it. And it was the talk of social media for the last week or so with respect to, is Essence dead? And that's sad, because for 30 years, it has been such a huge component of the culture. And so I was thinking about that, and we're having some conversations with a couple of friends. And I said, well, what's happened to Essence? And then I went and looked and saw that Essence, and this shocked me, the individuals who put on Essence are not from the culture.
Well, that's interesting.
The firm that puts on Essence is a firm that's Caucasian. Not only that, of the individuals who are at this firm, of the 27 individuals that are at this firm, they employ 3 Black folk.
This is extremely interesting.
None of them are in leadership positions.
So that's interesting, because I had this thought that spaces like Essence Fest, they celebrate us, they affirm us, they pour into us, and they're important to us. But they're, in some regards, in some aspects, the culture becomes a shield for mediocrity. Right. And so even talking about HBCUs, sometimes the experience is subpar, and we're supposed to, I'm just not the experience of your education, but maybe financial aid, or going through long lines, or housing, or things like that. And because it is the culture, we're supposed to be like, well, I mean, it's the culture, so let's buck up and let's do it. The culture can't always be a shield for mediocrity. And I think that's interesting that you're saying for Essence Fest that the leadership is not Black. And I wonder if I keep with this thought, I wonder if there is this expectation that the people that are in leadership said, well, you know what, we could just do whatever because it's Black and they'll accept this. But for people like me that are very protective of their pennies, no, I'm not going to spend it there.
Yeah, that's a good question, because that came up, not only the fact that it is the group that sponsors or produces Essence Fest. And to be fair, Essence Fest does contract with a lot of minority businesses, small minority business, but the main sponsor, the main producer is a white firm called the Solomon Group out of New Orleans. And so one of the things that probably pissed me off more than anything was you had them decide that they were going to partner with Target.
Dare they?
Well, the flip side of what it is that some of my friends would say is that the contracts with Target had been signed some years back.
I don't care if they were signed in 1842. No.
And so Target was providing financial assistance for the event.
Probably another reason why it was subpar, because Target's like, oh yeah, you're not going to shop here? Well, how about this?
So look, this is what I would say with the Target thing. You and I both agree Target can kick rocks, but I will say that I get why Target would want to do it. I also understand why Target probably should have taken the approach that, okay, we can write you the check because we want to support you, but it may not be in our best interest right now to be front and center.
Well, if it was in your best interest, if I were Target and I was in marketing or PR, it would have been the most fantastic event ever put on because you have damage control that you need to manage. And so why, when you already have issues, that you would go and support a subpar event? Like, you're just not bright, Target. Go away.
Okay, so I'm not going to say that the Essence Fest is a subpar event.
I think that Miss Mills, it was Stephanie, right, that wrote the charged letter that it was no es bueno.
Can you name a Stephanie Mills song?
We're not here for quizzes. It's just so boring. People don't want to hear quizzes. Like, this isn't school.
So you can't name a Stephanie Mills song?
Kiss my ass. Is that one of them?
Speaking of Stephanie Mills, did you ever watch any of Versus? Did you watch Versus?
Let's keep talking while I Google. Siri, what is Versus? No, I've never heard of this before.
Ken, how can you be a Black woman living in Austin? Okay, anyway.
Because there's only a finite amount of time in the day, and I can't consume or fill the entire day with things that you feel represent Blackness. You're not the be-all whatever of Blackness. You don't own Blackness, John.
The silence that you hear, again, is me looking at this woman who is, again, the whitest Black woman that I know.
My friends also take offense to that because what does that mean that I'm the whitest Black person that you know? What are you saying? What are you saying? What does that mean?
Your white girlfriends are offended?
Never knew love like this, but I found it. I know it. I figured it out. No, I think that we're going to table that too. Let's table that. And let's get back to the subject at hand.
The subject of hand in terms of culture and the appropriation or misappropriation of the culture and who gets to gatekeep the culture. The bigger question, the issues that we have, and you make some valid points with respect to saying that even when you attend an HBC, that should not in and of itself mean subpar. And I think in a lot of people's minds, when they think of HBCUs, they think of, in some ways, mediocrity. And when you think about the history of HBCUs, and I know you had an interesting conversation on your podcast with a young lady from FAMU, Dr. DeGregory. I'm always cognizant of the fact that HBCUs aren't all a monolith. We all have different things that we do well. I just happen to be a product of the Mecca. And I have friends who attended FAMU. I have friends who attended Morehouse. I have friends who attended Spelman. And I have a son who attended Hampton. I say that to say you are correct from the standpoint that we have to start holding ourselves more accountable for the products that we put out and, more importantly, what we spend our dollars on. Well, John, you think about that. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to make sure that we're clear. If we continue to operate in this narrative that has been supported and promoted by white media, by other people that want to be surprised when we can actually speak English, we need to step up. There was a comment a couple of weeks ago about trust and how that lack of trust impacts our financial ability and it impacts other areas of our lives. And so for us to have trust, when I hire you, I expect you to do quality work because I'm going to pay you like your white counterpart. But I will also never talk to you again like I would do with anybody. So step up. We own our own journey. We own our own narrative. We need to take back that power and stop letting people define who we are. I am so disappointed to hear about this Essence Festival. I did not know that. I'm going to write a strongly worded letter. You know, I love writing letters and speaking to the manager. I'm on it. You should. Thank you for allowing me to do that. It's speaking of the culture. The other thing that we talked about a couple of weeks ago was the problematic Robert Griffin Jr. III. And I was hoping that we would play this with the idiotic comments that he makes with respect to Angel Reese. So this week, he finds himself again in the hot seat with Black America because he falls in squarely into that category of someone who grew up around white folk. And I think there's this type of self-hatred. No, maybe, but I just want to make sure you're clear that just because you grew up in white
environments doesn't mean that there is a majority of the people that did that feel self-hatred, because I love myself. And I mean, I'm sure you can tell that I love myself. And I think that there are other things that are going on with this man, and he is a problem.
What were you just doing with your hair?
It's hot in here.
Lord bless her. So with RG3, there was a person who had posted this throwaway line about injuries on Twitter. And this person may have had 30, maybe 40 followers. RG3 has millions of followers. So this person had said something that RG3 took offense to about injuries. Instead of him saying, don't say this about injuries and it's inappropriate for you to say this about injuries, what RG3 did was he took what this person said. He took the meme that this person posted, and we're going to post this meme as a part of this. I don't like doing it, but I think it's appropriate here.
Can I go ahead and talk about that?
And so the meme was of Angel Reese dribbling a ball, and she looked like a monkey. RG3 decided that he was going to post this meme or repost this meme and platform the individual who had posted it originally, and then take the opportunity to say, you know, what I said about Angel Reese in terms of her hating Caitlin Clark is documented because I heard it from individuals within her inner circle who said that, yes, she does hate Angel Reese. And so I'm not mad at Angel Reese because I should be the one that's mad at Angel Reese because of her, my family received death threats. But you don't see me doing X, Y, and Z.
We keep giving him a platform. Right now it's hot in this room and I'm getting hotter. Like, why does he continue to take up space? You, sir, can go with Target. Goodbye.
I think we give him space because he is, full transparency, he is very, very good at this job of being an analyst.
I don't give a fuck sorry. I don't care what he thinks. I am tired of hearing Black men in particular take away a Black woman's humanity. Like, I am sick of it. I am over it. He's going to get a strongly worded letter along with the Dallas Cowboys. You suck.
Well, yeah.
I always like to copy the Dallas Cowboys on everything.
Cowboys have always. I mean, with RG3, it's, again, him taking the opportunity to take a shot at this young lady who he clearly has issues with. And so you have a lot of Black folk who do believe that he has some issues with himself with respect to...
He can go get therapy. Leave her out of it. Leave all Black women out of it. You have a picnic to attend, and it is no Black people are there. Just go get your potato salad with raisins and move on.
Picnic is a loaded term. It's a racist term. Did you know that?
I did not know that. Oh, my God. Delete this one. Check that out.
Had you attended an HBCU, you would have known that. No, look up
it didn't sound like racist, but I was like, well, I mean, it does have food, and you know how I feel about food.
No, yes, it's a racist term, so you want to use another term instead of picnic.
Okay, let's go ahead and delete that out, and we're going to say, you have an event. Out of here.
I think that you can be supportive of a person and he was trying to be supportive and say, don't say this about Angel Reese, but he took it and made it about him.
And so that's why I'm saying that I don't necessarily know that it's self-hatred. I think it's ignorance. And so you're not a bright person. Why do we need to hear from you? Like, you're just not, what do you?
I'm not going to say he's not a bright. He's extremely.
Well, I am. I don't care. I'm a Black woman. He doesn't like us anyway. And I got a slick mouth, so I don't think he's very bright.
No, he's a bright person. He attended Baylor.
In your opinion, I don't give a shit where he attended. He could have attended Howard. You're not bright.
See, again, what you're not going to do is take shots at the Mecca. Again, you and your head. I
don't hate it. I don't hate it. I just think it's a cult.
You know what it is?
I admire the people that have come from Howard. I admire what they do. I admire the whole thing. And if I had been brave, I may have attended myself. But
did you being around that many Black folk would have been triggering for you? Because you're not used to being around that many Black people.
I don't know my life. You don't know what I am used to and what I'm not used to. I am very skilled in moving in different environments. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about being able to move through different environments and being comfortable in those different environments, but not right now.
Yes, ma'am. So as we wrap up this episode, which is about the culture, and specifically I wanted to talk about how, whether it's what the shit show is saying and how it is that he has his opinion of what it is and who it is that Black folk are, and what it is and who it is that we can achieve, or whether it's about how we show up and support events that are supposed to be of significance for us, and where we decide as a culture that is enough. Do we draw the line, and then we drew the line at Target and say, okay, you guys disrespected us in this way, we're not going to spend another dime with you. With Essence Fest, do we take the same approach that, hey, until there is some visible leadership that looks like us, we're not going to support this?
Absolutely. I agree with that.
Or if it's RG3 and his ignorance about how it is that he continues to disrespect and trash or traffic, I should say, advocating, or at least that's what I'm looking for, putting out these memes that can be offensive to Black women. Mm-hmm. We have to start having some difficult conversations about how it is and what it is that we are doing or not doing, other accountable.
Yeah.
And I think a part of that obviously rests with you and I having some of these conversations on shows like this, where we are having, dialogue about what we can do better and how it is that you need to show more respect for the great university that is Howard, and understand things that had it not been for the Mecca, but the achievements that you now granted may have not been there. So with that, again, what the hell are you doing with what are you doing?
You're like a crow that just can't, you see something shiny. What's that? What? Focus, John.
Well, if you're pulling your hair out, it's because, did you wash it? Did you get
I did get my hair washed, actually.
So you're not used to having your hair washed? I'm sorry. All right. So as we wrap up this session, what is, other than the fact that you did not know that picnic was an offensive term, you clearly didn't know what versus is or was, and you one Stephanie Mills song. Tell me again about how it is that you growing up in the all-white space allowed you to be able to be a great representation of Black women.
Because again, we are not your definition. A Black woman is nuanced. We are so much more than what you can even imagine. Our definition is immense. And so you're going to see Black women in corporate America. You're going to see Black women in hospitals. You're going to see Black women all over the place. And because you don't think that's Black, it takes nothing away from our Blackness. We love being Black. We love the shades of Blackness. And Johnny doesn't define what it means to be Black. We own it. We're authentic. And we will chart our own course and our own journey and create our own narrative. Thank you. I rest my case.
I am sure that your mentor, Miss Melania Trump, would be a model of you being.
She'll use that in one of her speeches.
Yes.
And then what it means to be a white woman.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for that passionate speech that no one but you. I think that, again, the thing that keeps me optimistic about us as a culture is the fact that, again, when I talked about we have the ability to take a situation that may be dire or that may appear dire and turn it into lemonade. That's been our history. When you see folk freaking out about what's happening in the world today, in the United States today, you see Black people out here living their best lives. You see more of us traveling and doing things that allow us to have that, as you use that term, spontaneous joy, that will allow us to stay focused on, okay, we're going to do the things that we need to do that's going to feed our soul and not get bogged down into these other things that we did our part. We voted the way that we said that we were going to vote, or we did some of the things that we said that we were going to do. And so from that standpoint, those things make me proud. I think as I look back on the last week, it's been a very interesting time this July, where we go from all the things that's going on with the shit show and all the pomp and circumstance in terms of the bills and the parades and all that. And you go with where it is that Black people are with respect to the culture and how it is that we are not paying attention to any of that. We're paying attention, but we're not, and how we're still out here doing what we need to do in order to be successful. And so I want to thank you for taking the time to have the dialogue about where it is and how it is that we are continuing to evolve as a culture. I also want to thank you for taking the time to understand that, or at least I'll say this, I want to thank you for saying, and I do agree, that there's no one way to be Black. We are a very diverse group of people, and there are individuals like you who have very limited exposure to certain things.
Always.
And there are individuals who have been exposed to Black excellence all of their lives.
And have a very limited, narrow view of the world. But I take your point.
Well, if you're experiencing Black excellence, you are experiencing the world, because Black excellence defines the world.
That's your definition.
That's truth. That is truth. That's not a definition. That's the fact.
Let's hear the comments. Is that Johnny's definition or those facts?
Thank you. With that, thank you again for a very, very interesting conversation and watching you do something this week with your hair. You started with that, and now you ended up looking like Tina Turner, so I don't know what's going on.
Well, whatever. Okay with that. I'm all right with that.
Back to that. Guys, thank you again for spending time with us. We know that you have many different things that you can be doing, but we're glad that you're deciding to spend the day and this time with us. As always, take the time this week to do something nice for yourself. And while you're at it, take the time to do something nice for someone else. Until we speak to you next time, talk to you.
Well, thanks for joining us for another lively discussion. This podcast is a production of the SMU Media Group, LLC. All rights are reserved. If you like this episode, click on the link in the right-hand corner and check out additional content. Also, be sure to subscribe to the I Take Your Point podcast to ensure you're getting all of your content. Until next time, take care and be well.